Hi everyone, this is Urvashi. So today we will be learning how do we install TensorFlow in our machine, in our computer. So what is a TensorFlow and why do we use it? What is this code really doing? We don't need to understand what is this code doing, but we are here to install TensorFlow. We need to know what is a TensorFlow, right? But I'll be telling you what is that while we install it because the installation will take time. Okay. Meanwhile, when you install anything in your computer, like any package or library, make sure you do that in a virtual environment. Now, what's a virtual environment? Let's say you are making a project today, right? For that, you're using TensorFlow 2.5, right? And then 5 years later, the TensorFlow version, the current TensorFlow version is 5.7, but your project is using 2.5, so it will only run with the 2.5 version, because let's say there are some updates in the 5.7 version and your project doesn't seem to be working with that version. Do you want to destroy your project just for the version clash? No, you don't want to do that, right? Because you took a lot of time making your project. So the the savior here is the virtual environment. So we'll make a virtual environment. That means it's a part of your computer's memory which is allocated just specifically for that particular project. And in that memory, you will be having all the packages with that specific version which you need for the project. Even if you see that virtual environment 10 years later, it will still be having the same version. So your project will still be running with the same versions. So you are good to go. So let's create our virtual environment. I'm in a Mac machine right here. So for that, I'll say Python. Okay, make sure you have the Python installed. It's very easy to do that. So Python minus M, V stands for virtual environment. And I'm gonna name my virtual environment to something. Let's say V. That's what I do. Okay, now I hit enter and you can see there is a virtual environment folder in the left side. Right. So we are done making the virtual environment. But the next step is to go inside the virtual environment. That's called activate the virtual environment. To do that, I need to say source because I'm in the Mac machine. And then you need to say V and then bin. Now, what's the bin here? If you open the V folder, there's a bin folder inside it. That's where I'm locating myself, and then I'm going inside the activate file because that's going to activate it. Activate means I'm going inside the virtual environment, and whatever I'll be installing, it will be inside. So bin and then activate, and then hit enter, and we are inside the virtual environment. Now we are good to go. Now the next step is to install the TensorFlow. So let's go for it. Anything you want to install using Python can easily be done using pip install tensor, like that library basically. Here I'm installing TensorFlow, so let's go for it. So, like I told you that it's gonna take some time. So meanwhile, I'll be telling you what's a TensorFlow. TensorFlow is a framework developed by Google. Now that framework is to train and make the machine learning models and deep learning models. These machine learning and deep learning models, you can say it's like a kid. You are teaching a kid how to solve a problem, and then after some like lessons, after some teaching using some data, like you show this kid the data that okay, this is how a dog look like. So that kid understands, okay, the dog has these specialities, and then this is how a cat looks like. So you are teaching that kid, and then that kid will be giving the answers to the questions later when you ask him, okay, do you know what is this? Yeah, I know this is a cat because it matches the features. So using the TensorFlow, making that kid, which is your model, is pretty easy. You don't need to do it from the scratch. So that's why we use TensorFlow. Now I think it's done. It's telling me some version things here, but I don't really need to upgrade it right now. I think my TensorFlow is installed. So let's go for it. So python app.py. I'm gonna run my file. Let's check it out. So if it's installed successfully, it's gonna run and give me some output, not an error. So let's check. Okay, it's running. It's doing something. That means my TensorFlow is installed. It's not really giving me errors, so I'm happy. It's installed. We don't really need to see the output, but that's done. So see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.